Hmm. Hey, hope you all are doing well. Welcome back. This is another video of our live series of the red pill versus the blue pill. And I am Dr. Delon Canterbury. I am the founder and pharmacist of GeriatRx, as well as the founder of the Deprescribing Accelerator, where we believe we have been stuck in this over medicated matrix, and we're looking to teach like minded senior facing professionals on ways they can break through this broken healthcare system and choose the red pill. So, appreciate you all tuning in and joining us. Um, but I'm glad you are back here again. So, welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Today, we're diving into some of the common myths I believe some of our potential clients are facing or still are unwrapping on how they can really start using deprescribing as a service based model for their business, but also something they can use that is going to help grow some of their profits and unfortunately address some of those issues that are killing our profits. So we're going to talk about that more in depth today. And let's really just call a spade here. I believe when we talk about the word deprescribing, we immediately jump straight to what the provider or prescriber had written, and it's going to ultimately fall on all of them to just start deprescribing for their patients, where uh, we know that's just completely untrue. Okay. Our medical providers are inundated with so much on their plate. All right. And it's so easy to play the blame game and put all this on doctors. Again, that's not the point of this. The point of this is to come and show how we already have a natural expertise as pharmacists. So let's get out of this mindset of thinking we need to be attached to a pharmacy to convey value, where truthfully, the field of pharmacy is jumping into the world of service based offers that we provide for our patients and for providers. But let's be real, it does not just end all be all with the doctor taking this step into learning even what deprescribing is, knowing how to use it, knowing how to, well, reference the right tools and resources. I mean, it's just not even taught in their school training. It's not even taught as a part of their curriculum. So how can we just automatically assume that there is just priority to really put deprescribing in the forefront of our senior care when we see polypharmacy rates through the roof and these prescribing cascades through the roof, and unfortunately high readmission rates for people um, who are still dealing with medication side effects and having to navigate that. So it's not easy, right? We know it's super difficult. So how can we just expect prescribers to just suddenly start deprescribing when, again, our healthcare system doesn't even really incentivize that? And that, my friends, is, I think, the number one myth is feeling like, what power do we have as deprescribers if we weren't the ones who wrote the medication or put that order in? And it's a problematic mindset because it's contrary to our power in advocacy and knowing what may or may not be appropriate for someone at the time. So I think it just feeds this circle of, well, let's just put it on the patient to ask the doctor about it, instead of empowering the patient to be like, yo, here's the issues with this. Here's why this is causing harm in your life. And here's why you need to make this intervention now versus waiting till later for another ER visit for tens of thousands of dollars. So, I mean, even just yesterday, right? Just yesterday, I had a referral for a consultation for a patient who is suffering from Parkinson's disease and was having some difficulty sleeping, right? Which is pretty common in the Parkinson world. And this patient didn't really have, hey, Dr. Gandhi. Oh, well, thank you. Dr. Gandhi is here tuning in, and she mentioned as a physician, she has always appreciated her pharmacist colleagues for advocating for the health of our patients. So super awesome. I'm so glad you put that comment in, and I want to thank you for sharing. But honestly, that's what I hear too, is there's more of an appreciative standpoint when pharmacists come in and give that, not just really an olive branch, but that perspective that I think isn't exactly there in some of our other training. And that's okay. We are not the experts on diagnoses, medical doctors are. We are the experts on the drugs. So if we're able to work as a team and get out of our ego silos, that is what I want us as pharmacists to seize and embrace, because we're not in silos. We're meant to do this together. So don't feel afraid to overstep your boundaries or to, again, advocate, because it's not overstepping, it's advocate. It's advocating for patients in need who are vulnerable. Don't be afraid to take that charge and go to bat for your patients. And then don't be afraid, even further, to get paid for that advocacy, right? Don't be afraid of that. That's what we are literally here for. So again, team-based care, patient-centered care is the goal. So own it. Don't be afraid of your gift, right? So going back to that patient with Parkinson's, they were they were they were on clonazepam for 2 years, and this is like how old is this guy? This guy, I think, is in his late 60s, right? And it had me question, why are we using clonazepam for sleep in someone who has Parkinson's and issues with walking and issues with falling, and why? Like, why? It is inappropriate. Again, we talked about the Beers list, and we talked about the use of benzodiazepines. This guy did not have any rapid eye movement disorders. He did have some difficulty sleeping, but was there even any other uh, approach taken? Was there a holistic approach? Was there an assessment of sleep hygiene? Was there any non-pharm use? Was there any behavioral strategies implemented before we jump to a benzo that is long acting? I think it lasts like 12 to 15 hours and has an association of increasing harm in this very same population, right? Like, we're trying to reduce readmissions, and guess what? This patient is falling. This patient almost fell last week. And that's why I'm doing a consult with them this week to see what we can do to consider a tapering strategy, or, of course, other therapies to help with sleep. So that was easy. That was just me knowing the Beers list and saying, this is inappropriate in usually in Parkinson's and maybe those with dementia-related issues. As we know, it can increase brain fog, confusion, and I'm getting paid to do that. Like, I am getting paid to make this intervention that could potentially save this person's quality of life and hopefully improve their sleep and get rid of a medicine that may or not really be helping to begin with. It may be worsening the condition, So I think the first piece is getting over this myth that there needs to be a fear to tell doctors how you can help them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it shouldn't take this fear of I'm not worthy, so to speak, or who am I to tell? And when it's like, no, we're just working together. So that's myth number one. Get out of your head of thinking that this needs to be like given to you to make this lifestyle happen. All right. Number two, I feel sometimes, especially me in the beginning, and then not knowing how to structure my business and how to start getting into offices, is assuming that you have to have all of the answers now. You're just not gonna have all the answers to how you're gonna roll out this new high ticket service. And when it comes to fleshing the details out, you just gotta sometimes go on faith and take a leap and trust yourself that the answer is going to come. And it 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 generally comes. Okay. Maybe not all the time when you want it, but it's gonna come. So don't let this fear of the unknown or this it's not all fleshed out be your excuse to remain in your comfort zone. That's a complete myth. Like, we're literally learning as we grow, and we're learning as we implement this amazing life-saving service of deep prescribing, particularly in our seniors. So with such an aging population growing, with a dearth of geriatricians and senior care providers, uh, the time is now to act. The time is now to pivot into this space of leveraging your already zone of genius as a pharmacist and nurse and senior care professional, um, to make way for this new model of preventative health, of value-based care, of doing what we really got into this profession to do. So I have to call out this need to know everything, which, we as clinicians like the guidelines, we like to stay in the lines, we like to know what XYZ will be and have XYZ contingencies. Have all the contingencies all day, but if you stay in that place of comfort, then my friend, that's going to crush your profits. You need to address the elephant in the room, which is this initial fear of thinking we aren't meant to be the greatness that we have. And that is our power to deprescribe and get our patients off of harmful meds. That's all we want to do, right? So I'm not, again, thinking that everything needs to be alternative and holistic and functional medicine. I'm not bashing any of those. I'm simply saying there needs to be a check and balance when it comes to this use of always throwing a pill for every ill. That needs to stop. All right. Third is we got to get at this idea of thinking that we as pharmacists are just confined to a product, right? Our identity isn't defined by your 90-day metric count or how many flu shots and COVID shots you gave this quarter. Like, we are not just the results of a product. You know what I'm saying? We are not just verification of orders to make sure it's safe. Like, it's so much more to that. It's like there's so much unpaid value that we provide to our healthcare system, and it's damn time we start getting paid for that and monetize that, or else again we are cutting into potential profits and closing the door on opportunities to find our financial freedom, one, but to live again in alignment of service as clinicians. So we aren't attached to pharmacy labels, pharmacy bottles, 90-day counts. We are not attached to how awesome one med review is. Like, it's the value we convey to our patients who need our help. It's how are we showing up, serving in alignment with the greater purpose. That's literally it. And then it's a bonus that we get paid buku bucks for that. That's cool. That will happen regardless if you're serving authentically, but the goal is to serve. And all of you have an amazing deprescribing win story, testimony to someone who found a way around beating their diabetes or killing their blood pressure goals or weight loss or beating mental health concerns. We are resilient. We are resilient. So there has to, again, get out of this mindset of thinking that we are only confined to our 9 to 5s. Like, no, we have some of the most leverageable assets as clinicians in this space, and deprescribing is just an avenue. It's an avenue to break out of the usual 9 to 5, but it's an avenue to help you realign fire that got you to the profession to begin with. So we talked a couple things about some of these myths that are, again, killing your profits. We're stuck in this zone of not doing anything but taking an action. So I think there's a myth of sometimes when we put ourselves out there, we don't always believe doctors or prescribers may be welcome to having a pharmacist's perspective or intervention. And I'll be honest, in all my cases, I've had one and a half maybe who were completely anti what I had to say. And even in those situations, it wasn't like the primary care provider. It was a specialist, and the PCP ended up still working with me anyway to help with the interventions I made. So people will be counter to what we're doing, right? Because again, this is fairly new. Deprescribing is fairly new. It takes a little re-educating. It takes a little bit of training, but in theory, what we're doing is a win-win-win. We are helping the patients. We're helping the insurance companies who are reducing their costs associated with care. We're reducing the time wasted on providers that are managing preventable side effects, symptoms, and health conditions that could have been fixed had we talked about it earlier or put more time into educating the patients and motivational interviewing and all the ways that we can intervene, right? Because we have all these powers. But even best, this is helping us as providers because we're serving in a way, in a capacity that was aligned with our degrees, our 200K, 300K plus degrees that we sacrificed so much for. So get out of their head thinking that providers won't listen to your interventions or your recommendations. Like, they want all the help they can get. They are appreciative, as one of our doctors who was on the call mentioned, Dr. Gandhi. So don't own it. Own your gift, and don't be afraid to sell that. Don't be afraid to monetize it. And again, that's what we're going to teach you anyway with our course, but don't be afraid of the no. Be told it's a no, and then keep moving on to the next. The second is thinking that we have to have all of the answers before we jump into this space of selling ourselves, right? If you are waiting for the perfect day where, suddenly Delon knows every single thing that GeriatRx will do and will accomplish with X amount of patients by X amount of time, I'm never going to get there because it's always going to be a moving needle, one, but you're just simply not going to know everything until you are faced with how to solve that problem in the moment now, not 3 months later, but now. So you're in a continuous cycle of truly not knowing everything. That is literally entrepreneurship. You literally don't know everything. Even if you read all the books, do all the trainings, get all the coaches, there's just some things you're never going to truly know until you face it. And that is completely cool. It's okay to not know. So do not make this feel to know be your roadblock to living your true self. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 was we need to get out of this mindset of thinking that our job, our end all be all, is attached to some type of product, right? I'm not Dr. Canterbury, the verification specialist. I'm not Dr. Canterbury, the count by 5 specialist. I'm not Dr. Canterbury, I just killed that amazing MTM, so that's it. No, we are, again, service based. We are consultants. We are experts. We are literally the damn thing. Like, we are the boss of the drugs. So own that gift. Own that gift and get out of his head that we have to be attached to this. Whatever we did for that hour is our end all be all. Like, it's not. You can literally start your business today and use deprescribing as an avenue to help others in the way that you want to help people. Lastly, the fourth one's actually fairly simple. You, especially with our program more tailored to senior patients and senior facing clinicians like nurses, pharmacists, social workers, others in this avenue, um, it you don't necessarily have to work in that senior space now to dive into the world of geriatric care. And I mean this as in, you don't have to like be an LTC pharmacist to make this happen or have a board certified geriatric credential to be a deprescribing advocate. It kind of is done for you once you learn the content. Um, but I will say you have to have a passion for this. You have to want to serve. You have to lead with being the advocate for a voiceless population. And you don't have to necessarily know all the bells and whistles here of being a geriatrician. Like, it'll help you, but as long as you come with a doggedness and a level of service and an attitude that's there again to serve, you're going to get all the rest naturally. So don't feel like, oh, well, I don't work with more than 45%, 50% seniors, that I don't belong here. I was like, well, that's not true. Like, if you want to make this your mission, your service, you can. But it helps to have that geriatric background, but it's not a prerequisite. So again, that kind of ties into this need to have all the trainings and credentials and all the XYZ. Hey, what's going on? Inspired Senior Care. Hope you're doing well. So don't again fall victim to this, I don't have enough to do XYZ mentality. That's a problem. And really why it's a problem is that, well, I think we're so accustomed to kind of passing the buck in healthcare. It's like, well, I didn't write it. That's the patient and the doctor's problem. Or, well, that wasn't my issue and I don't want to take responsibility. I'm not going to sign off on it. Or it's not my place because, oh, well, even though the patient's falling in front of me in my nursing home, what can I do? I'm powerless. I'm just a nurse director. Like, no, the patient has touched your institute, touched your life. It is no longer excusable to let harm take the reins of someone's health. It's a cop out. It's a cop out to just say, well, the patient just needs to ask the doctor about it. No, that is nonsense. Like, you really think in this day and age they're going to even get in touch with the doctor, one, and then remember 4 months later for their next visit to bring up within those 10 to 15 minutes what you told them to ask? Is that realistic? Like, you really think that's happening? You're not doing your all by just putting it back on the patient. They're already stressed. They're already dealing with being a caregiver. They're already trying to navigate this system. They barely have money to see you to even take the time off to schedule for their loved one's care. And the next thing you want to add to their plate is go back to your doctor and ask about this. Like, that's not. They want evidence. The doctor wants evidence. The patient needs more than just to go tell them this. They need, here's why, here's a rationale, here's the reason. They need all of that so that they have a better foot to stand on when they're back trying to make this change happen. So don't tell me to just put it back on the patient to do our job. Are you kidding? They are not clinicians. Why do we assume a caregiver is suddenly a pharmacist? Like, bro, how can you put someone in that position when they're thrown into this space 90% of the time with no preparation or even any real resource to help them. That's ludicrous, and that needs to change. And then we also get out the idea that this is not harming us. It is harming us. It's any way someone's in harm's risk, or we're not acting on something that could be preventable. For instance, I don't know, getting your flu shot every year, right? We know that there is a statistical difference, at least. Maybe COVID's a better example, but at this rate, I can't even tell. Everyone's getting COVID. But let's be honest, if we're not putting into ways to prevent harm, which vaccinations have done across the world, saving millions of people's lives, then we are just chasing the dragon when it comes to doing the best we can and really doing what we're supposed to do, which is investing more in preventative measures. So why wait for the train wreck? For instance, the Klonopin patient we talked about earlier, who has Parkinson's, who is already showing signs of difficulty falling and with walking. Why wait for him to actually fall due to a benzo to then intervene and say, maybe we should stop the benzo? Like, why? That stuff kills me. That kills me. And then we want to hide behind our titles and say, well, it's not my place. Oh, I didn't know, well, the other doctor wrote it, so I don't want to touch it. I'm so tired of hearing this clinical inertia crap where I didn't write it, so that's going to be the nephrologist, or that's going to be the cardiologist, because I don't want to touch that, because I don't want to ruffle feathers. No, that's not how this works. And that's why pharmacists truly don't care. That's why we come with the facts and the objectivity to say, hey, here's what we think. Screw all of this silo crap. Here's the issue, and here's how we can intervene. And here's how, even further, how we can live in fulfillment and alignment with what we're supposed to do, right? So again, these are the myths I got to dispel. I got to throw it out there, because I think we all need to change our thoughts, beliefs, and how we decide to take action, because we still are trapped in this product mentality, this label of we only deliver a product, where really we are delivering a high value, high ticket service. All right. So appreciate y'all tuning in as always. Appreciate the love, and there'll be more again for the rest of the week. We'll have more discussions on getting back to feeling like a pharmacist, getting back to deprescribing, getting this to become the most normalized form of senior care. And that's to start with these meds and to start taking off what we don't need while growing your practice. So again, Dr. Delon Canterbury, I'm your geriatric pharmacist, founder of GeriatRx. What are your thoughts? What do you think? I encourage you to learn more about our course details in the link in the description from our Deprescribing Accelerator. We do start our next cohort next month, looking for 5 to 7 people who are passionate as much as I am to serve and develop novel revenue streams with deprescribing in our seniors. So you guys have an amazing week, and see you next time.